in the chat, I'll be happy to answer that too. But just a quick question for you guys, for Alex, for Bea, for Danielle, for Emma, and let's see who else. Josu, Laura, have you been here before? Just would like to know that from all of you guys. So we got a huge following on Meetup. I think we're close to 5,000 members right now, and so far so good. But we're also doing in-person lectures. We're doing like in-person workshops, and we get a bit more attendees there. So here on Meetup, we're basically, you may have seen us on Eventbrite. You may have seen us on Meetup and know us from there. But you also may have seen us on Facebook and on Instagram. Yeah. So we're live on these platforms every time, every Wednesday, Zoom, Instagram, Facebook, even YouTube, right? So it's lovely if we make the chat a bit interactive. That's really cool, because what I want to share with you tonight is cool stuff. Honestly, it's cool stuff. You're gonna learn something about the mind tonight, because obviously motivation's got everything to do with your mood. Your mood's got everything to do with your mind. So the whole idea is to learn something about that. And there's a particular book that I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to show that book to you up front, which is this book. It's called Dianetics, and Dianetics means through the mind. It comes from dia, from Greek, through, netics from nous, meaning mind. In other words, through mind. Now, believe it or not, that book has been on the market for 75 years now. It came out in May 1950, and it has completely changed the world. It sold 22 million copies in 50 languages. You can literally get this from Arabic to Zulu. That's how big it is, right? So if you want to have it, for example, if you want to have your own copy, let's say in Brazilian Portuguese, you can have it. You could have it in simplified Chinese, for example, right? Or traditional Chinese. So it's there in many languages. Now, what is so special about this book? This book is the only book on planet Earth that will give you an accurate description of what your mind is, how it works, and what it does for you. Now, you've heard about the subconscious mind, and we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. You heard about the subconscious mind. And what the book tells you is what kind of memories, what stuff is stored in your subconscious mind. How does it hold you back? How does it change your moods and actions? How does it limit you in your potential? And guess what? The best part of the book is it tells you how to fix it. So by the end of the evening, I'm going to be sharing a link with you. The book is 20 euros. We have it with free shipping. So anybody living in the UK, that's roughly 18 pounds, 1/8, including shipping. Anybody in the Eurozone, it's 20 euros, including shipping. So it's quite special. Now, what else is special? You don't see that very often. Here in the back of the book, you see an indentation. And that is actually, the book has its own dictionary, its own glossary. So you can actually find out certain terms, certain words. You don't have to look them up on Google or on the internet. You don't have to go on your computer to look up the hard to find words, because they're already in there for you. They've been defined for you. Now, all right, so I see that a number of you guys, let me see if there's any replies. I'm just checking quickly with my laptop. All right, so Laura, you have responded. Now, very quickly, I would like to know, where are you guys from? Where are you guys from, and what do you hope to get out of this webinar tonight? If you could drop something in the chat. I'm like an old guy. I type with 2 fingers. I'm not too fast. So if you're like me, then it's just nice if you could let us know where you're from. But if you're like a fast typer, then maybe you want to put something in the chat there and let us know what you hope to learn tonight. What are you hoping to get out of this hour of webinar? I really look forward to that. So let's see, we got some more people that trickled in. We got Charney. Okay, Laura, you're here from the UK to learn new skills. That's great. All right. Okay, we got Charney, we got Takey, and Mohammed. Okay, great, fantastic. Now let's see if anybody else responded, and then in the meantime, I just want to give you a bit of let's say we set the expectations. The first thing I already said, by the end of the evening, I'm going to offer you a book. You already know the price. We're going to share a link with you guys. But what we're going to do tonight is we're going to make that bridge and explain how motivation is all linked to your mind. Yeah. So by the end of the evening, you have a better conceptual understanding of what your mind really is and how it works. So I do need to ask you some questions, though, because that makes it a bit interactive and helps me to know if you guys are tracking. Now, are you here because you feel that you have a lack of motivation? Is that one of the things that you're here for? It might be like an open door, might be like a no-brainer. It's a duh, yes, Erik, of course, yeah. But let me know if that is the case. Is that going on all the time? Is it structurally, or is it just, you know, every now and then? What is going on? Do you feel that you have a constant lack of motivation, or is it coming and going? So you might just answer me in the chat, yes, problem with that. Yeah, I would like to have it resolved. Okay, let me have a sip of tea. In the meantime, I'm just going to check for your answers. Now, there's very few people in the chat, so I want all of you to participate in the chat. When we got 50 people here, not too long ago, we had 100 people in the chat, and I wasn't able to keep up. Usually, when there's like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people in the chat, we tend to be a bit shy and then wait for somebody else to reply. Please don't be shy. Put something in the chat. That way we get to know each other, and we're going to make it interactive. Okay, good. All right. Turney Lane from South Africa. Unbelievable. That's fantastic. You know what? I just came back from Joburg. I've actually been back in Ireland since a week. I left Joburg Wednesday a week ago. Loved it. What a fantastic country. And yes, Pavel. So Pavel is just suggesting that he puts the link for the book already in the chat for anybody who wants to peek and have a look. I'm going to do that. Now, I want to ask you guys so many questions, but I think I just need to skip the questions. I'm going to go straight to it. Yeah, I'm going to go straight to it. What is the mind? What is the mind? You know, you may have wondered, what is it? A lot of people would say, oh, it's the brain. Or people would say, oh, it's your consciousness. Or a person would say, well, it's like a computer. So I'm going to make it very, very simple for you. Let's say you're at a concert. What do you see people do? You see people holding up their phones, right? And they're recording everything. They're recording everything. You come home and you can play back. This is what your mind is doing all the time. You're constantly recording everything that you experience in your life. You're constantly recording that. And now you can play back. So, simple question. Do you remember getting out of bed this morning? Give me a quick yes or no, please, in the chat. Do you remember getting out of bed this morning? Can you visualize that? Do you get a picture of it? All right, yes, good. So what you just did, you just played back a part of your recording. Does that make sense? It makes sense, yeah? So you just played back a part of the bigger recording. There you see, you record everything that you experience in life, and you can actually play back parts of the film. You can look at that film again. Now, there is a bug. There's an error in that system. So, compare yourself to a recording machine, a film machine. You're constantly filming everything. You're constantly recording everything in your life. And you can play it back. But there's a bug. There's an error in the system. For example, what happens if you think back of, let's say, a bad recording? In other words, what happens if you think back of a bad experience? What's going to happen to you if you think back of a bad experience? Well, you'll probably say, okay, it's going to make me feel upset again. It's probably going to make me feel miserable again. Right? It's going to make me feel in a way that I don't want to feel. Okay, so here's another question then. Do you want to feel like that? Do you want to feel like that? So if you feel miserable, if it gets you upset again, do you actually want to feel that way? And you probably say no. That's exactly the bug. That's exactly the bug. So there's something that starts to replay and you can't shut it off. That makes sense? So now you're recording, you're replaying, but it keeps replaying all the time. You can't put it down. You can't shut it off. That's the bug. In other words, it's kind of like you have something happening to you that you don't want. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions because otherwise it's going to be hard to explain the next part. Yeah. So I really need you to do something in that chat, please. Do you remember primary school? Yeah. Just give me a yes or no. Do you remember primary school? And if I say primary school, can you, for example, in your mind, can you see the playground? You can see, yeah? Okay. Now, let's have a look at that playground. Do you see the tiles again? Or maybe it was sand. Maybe it was grass. Maybe it was some other material. Do you see that playground again? Okay. All right, good. Now, did that playground or that courtyard, did it have a fence around it? Did it have bushes around it? Or did it have trees around it? If you do see that, do you also see the entrance? Where would you come in? Or where would you leave the place? Now imagine that you're on that playground. Let's say you just turn around and you look at the school. Can you visualize the building again? Can you do that? Can you see the building? Can you see the color of the building? Can you see the material that the building was made of? Mine was made of wood. The walls were made out of wood. Kind of like a dark brown paint. Do you see those colors? All right, so let's see what happened here in the chat. All right, okay, beautiful. Now, so let's put this into a sketch. Let's say that's your mind. Here's your body. Your mind is like a very long film. It's a long recording. It's got all these pictures in there. So we call them mental images. Well, why are these mental images? Well, basically, they are mental because they're not physical. If it was a physical image, you would be able to touch it. You would be able to knock on it. You would be able to hold it in your hands. Your pictures, they're not physical. You cannot size them up. You cannot grab one and put one on the scale and find out how much it weighs. Can't really do that. So for that reason, these are called mental images. Okay, now let's take that to the next level. Now what I would like you to do is imagine that you're sitting in your kitchen. Just imagine you're sitting in your kitchen. Just do this drill, do this exercise for yourself. It's kind of fun to do. If you're already in the kitchen, I want you to imagine that you're sitting in the kitchen of your parents' place. So let's imagine you're sitting in the kitchen. Now what I would like you to do is just point out from where you're sitting, see if you can find the fridge. Where would it be? Just point at it. Just say for yourself, all right, if I'm sitting here, my fridge would be over there. Now if you have that, where would the cooker be? Where's the stove, the cooker? All right, might be over there. Good. Where's the nearest window? From where you're sitting, where's your nearest window in that kitchen? Could be over there, right? Okay, now let's find the door. Where would the door be? If I look at my kitchen, I got one over there and I got one over there. Okay, and where's the table? You might say, well, it's right there. So what do we learn from this? What we learn here is that these mental images are three-dimensional. They're three-dimensional images. They're not like a Polaroid. It's not like a print, like a piece of paper, like a sheet. It's not like that. Your image is actually three-dimensional. Now, there's a fun fact, because we've all learned, we've all been taught, or perhaps better, we've all been told that these pictures, that these recordings, that your memories are in the brain. Now, if you just did an exercise for yourself, you probably did not find the fridge in there, or the window next to your temple, or the table in the middle of your head. You probably didn't find it there. You probably said, well, it's just over there. It tells you that your mind and your brain are two distinct things. They're two different things. These things are separate. You have a brain, which is just a lump of fat, really, and it's got all these tentacles. And it's got all these wires to direct all kinds of functions in the body. So what does it tell you? Your brain controls your body. That's true. Your brain definitely controls your body. But your mind instructs your brain on what to do. So these are two distinct functions. If you want to know more about that, I would say read Dianetics, and you're going to find out a bit more of it. Now, who can give me an example of a bad experience? Who can give me an example of that? But now we have a few more people in the house, so I'm sure one of you guys could tell me an example of a bad experience. See, we got Bia now, I got Connor, Danielle, Emma. Okay, that's good. Oh, we got a good number of people. Okay, guys, so who can give me an example of a bad experience? Maybe like falling off a ladder, or a car accident, or a breakup, or being sacked, or whatever it is. Give me an example of a bad experience. Or do you want me to give you a bad experience? I guess you want me to give you a bad experience. All right. So, let's do one. Let's do one. I would agree if I would say, well, a breakup, an accident, being mugged, being sacked. These kind of things are not nice, yeah. But let's invent one. Let's invent one. So let's go a little bit back in time. When this person, let's say this person is called Joe. Joe's got a bad experience. Over there, let's say a year ago, he walked into a dark alley. Joe walked into a dark alley. He's going in that direction. Now, all of a sudden, he heard footsteps. And then he felt a sudden pain, excruciating pain in the back. And he got knocked out. There he is, just a moment later. Joe's lying on the floor. He's experiencing pain from the blow. Let's say he wakes up again. Now he's still in pain. And he just finds out that he's robbed. Okay, so he's got that whole recording. He's got this whole recording sitting here. And I just put that symbol there to indicate this was a physically painful incident. It was also an emotionally painful incident. He got into a dark alley. He got hit. He passed out. He woke up again in pain. And now he discovered his jewelry was gone. His money was gone. His wallet was gone. His bank cards, everything else was all gone. So he's got a bad experience here. Okay, so now let's say it was 1 year ago. One year back. Now we are in present time. In PT, present time. Joe is walking again down the road, and all of a sudden that road gets more narrow, and let's say he finds himself in an alley again. Suddenly there's a power outage, and the alley gets dark. What do you think Joe's mind is going to tell him now? That's the question for you guys. What do you think Joe's mind is going to tell him? I'm just going to take my time for a minute because I need to get something to wipe the board. Can anybody tell me how Joe's mind is going to respond? All right. Yes, he may get robbed or injured again. Tarni, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Yes. So that's a great answer. In other words, let's have a look at the anatomy. In other words, going back to your mind is a recording machine that can be replayed, right? It's a recording machine that can be replayed. So what is happening here, we have a recording here. And that recording now, what does it do? It goes on automatic. It goes on automatic replay. It goes on automatic replay, and Joe gets the sensation that whatever happened there is going to happen again. Does that make sense? So whatever happened in the past, that same thing is going to happen again right now. It's an automatic replay out of control. Because what really happens here is a misidentification. The incident in the dark alley here is not the same as the incident here. Now, maybe this is a typical example for South Africa because I have a bit of an idea how things are in the evening, yeah? However, these are not the same. An experience over there and an experience over here are not the same. If you got bitten here by a dog, that doesn't mean that a dog here is going to bite you. If you got fired there by a boss, that doesn't mean that a boss here is going to fire you. However, your subconscious mind that holds all the bad experiences will force you to think like that, exactly like that. That is the bug in the system. That's the bug in the mind. Your subconscious mind is the part of the mind that holds you back, that makes you think irrationally, and it limits your use of your full potential. That's what it does. Okay, now let's just have a look at this whole thing again. So if that automatic recording, if that automatic replay kicks in, do you think Joe's mood is going to change? Do you think his mood is going to change? Well, you don't have to give the answer. Yes, if some kind of a bad experience gets triggered and starts to replay, your mood will change. So I'm going to ask you a question. Just don't go back in time. Just don't find an answer to my question. Just stay here, try to answer it analytically for yourself. But if I would say, think back of a moment of a loss in your life, what would normally happen? Well, normally what would happen is that the emotion comes back. In other words, the moment from the past comes to the present and starts to automatically replay. Can you shake it? Can you ditch it? Well, usually not. Usually it takes some time, but ideally you could just turn the knob and say, well, I'm going to put that recording where it belongs. It doesn't belong here in present time. But most people can't do that. The book that I just promoted tells you how you can actually get rid of that mechanism. So let's imagine you think back of a moment of an upset. In this case, that thing over there, guaranteed, is going to make him very afraid. He is going to be in fear. Now, just answer this honestly for yourself. If you are procrastinating, if you're not doing something that you feel that you should be doing, then there's probably some part in the action that you're kind of afraid of. It might be that, oh, but I need to talk to that customer. No, but I'm not good on the phone. Or, but I need to sell this person something, but I'm not good at selling. Or I need to persuade that person to help me. Oh, but I can't do that. If you are procrastinating, if there's things that you know that you should be doing but you don't do them, then there's a fear factor. So that fear factor comes from the automatic replay that will affect your thoughts. Now, what you will find in there is something like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I don't want to have that kind of a bad experience again. I don't want to think about it. That is just too painful. I don't want to have that kind of an experience. Something there was simply either emotionally or physically or both too painful to experience again. So your mind throws the automatic replay in with a warning. Stay away from that because it's going to hurt. So you're going to feel this charge. You're going to feel that emotional pain, the loss of your wallet, the loss of your money, maybe also bodily pains that has been recorded. And now you're going to feel that again as a sort of stress. So if you're going to be afraid compared to, let's say, cheerful, are your actions going to be different? Well, if you're cheerful, you can handle a lot more in life, get a lot more things done, be more successful than, for example, when you're somewhat afraid. You're not going to jump in and get into action. You're going to be a bit more cautious. You'll take a very, very cautious approach, perhaps. And the results are going to be different. In other words, what we see here is the anatomy. What is going on in the back of your, well, I wouldn't say head, but what's going on in your mind. Okay? All right, now let's take that and see how this fits in with the things that we want to do or achieve in life. Are you guys tracking so far? Let me ask you that. Just see that. I think Pavel just put the link again. Are you guys tracking with this? In other words, does this make some sense to you? All right, so I don't know if you guys track with the whole story. I hope you do. Okay, good. So now there is a long story coming back. Oh la la. Okay, let me take some time. Just read the feedback. Okay, good. Fantastic. So, and this is coming from Khan. All right. I've done it. I've set goals, new resolutions, tried many tricks to get me to do things that were not my favorite, and still I couldn't get myself to do it, or at least do it enough. I still have not found the real reason for lack of motivation. Until I identify the real reason for my lack of motivation, it will be hard for me to change my burned out feeling. I really want your advice to overcome this in my life. I appreciate that. Thank you. I get what you say. Past events can cause fear for future events. And we don't do it instead of facing the fear. Yeah, Khan, thank you so much. Thank you so much for putting that in there. Well, all I can say for this moment, and I'm just going to give you my personal story, right? We're going to continue a bit more. I'm going to give you my personal story on this. I could not do public speaking. I could not do webinars. I could not do phone calls that was like a phobia for me. I absolutely shunned phones. I would not make appointments with somebody in business or even a hairdresser. And all that changed for the better when I started to understand how the mind works and started to apply the principles in the book. Yeah. If you see me doing, for example, an in-person lecture for a room with 50 people, I'm totally at ease. I actually get the public to do what I want them to do. If I want them to raise the hand, I'm going to make sure everybody is doing it. And I have a lot of fun with it. In other words, inabilities have turned around to abilities. Likewise, I can be on the phone the whole day. I don't care anymore. I actually like it. I like to meet new people. I like to have conversations on the phone. Now, the factor here is that we go through life, or better put, we go through school, and we don't learn anything about life itself. We learn how to be a plumber, an electrician, a bookkeeper, an administrator, and so on. But that would just help, perhaps, with getting a job that pays the bills and knowing how you can pay your taxes. But it doesn't really get you anywhere in life because you need tools for life. You need to know yourself. You need to know how you can love yourself. You need to know where are the bugs and how can I remedy them? How do I get rid of those bugs? So in other words, we're lacking education when it comes to life itself. It doesn't mean it's not there. The whole point is it's definitely not really there in psychology and all these other ologies, because they've proven over time they don't really work. And it's got nice substance, but it doesn't really work. You want something that works on the spot, that helps you to raise your IQ, be more confident, get more able. And it starts with understanding, and then you want to have something practical that you can do in order to make improvements. By the end of the evening, I'm going to share my number with you, Con or Connie or Conrad, whatever your name is. I'll be happy to have a chat. We can exchange WhatsApp numbers, and we can take it from there. I'm going to share my number with all of you guys. Anybody's got a personal question, I'll be happy to share. Now, let's just take the previous example on the mind and see what happens in life. Everything we do in life can be compared to a game. You say, well, Erik, but 9 to 5, that's not really a game, huh? Well, for most people, it isn't. Yeah. But let's have a look at the anatomy of a game. So a game normally has goals and purposes. In other words, in anything you do in life, there's something that you want to reach. Even if it's just buying a jeans, finding a jeans, and finding that jeans for 20 euros or 20 pounds, yes, I found the jeans that I wanted, and I have it for the price that I wanted it for. It could be considered a goal or a purpose, something that you wished to achieve. And you make it into a little game. And your next game might be, okay, I want to have a car. All right. My car is going to be my goal. That's my next step. I want to get a car, and that means I need to do things for it. So in other words, in that process of doing, we are running into barriers. Now there's something like, oh, I need to handle this person. I need to do a job interview. I need to convince this person and make sure that person knows I'm the person for the job. Whatever the barrier is, whenever you are pursuing a goal, whatever goal it is, you always go through some barriers. Even if you want to find that jeans of 20 pounds, 20 euros, well, guess what? You still have to go into town. You still have to take the public transport. You have to go in one shop, search for it, go to another shop, search for it. In other words, you're going to run into barriers. You're going to run into barriers. But what happens? Let's say you're nicely going in that direction of achieving your goals. There is no goal on the planet that is obtained without overcoming any barriers. No goal on the planet. Even if you want to make a sandwich, you still have to go through the barrier of opening the cupboard, getting the plate out, right? Opening some other box or plastic bag and getting some leaves of bread out, and moving your ass to the fridge and get some butter and some other stuff. In other words, there's no goal on the planet that can actually be obtained without conquering some barriers. Now, if you would conquer some barriers and you feel that you are moving in the direction of a goal, guess what is going to happen? You're going to experience some freedoms. And once you reach that goal, you have reached that absolute freedom that you wanted. You wanted to have that car. All right, now you finally can drive it. You can finally maneuver it around. You can finally, well, anyway, you can transport yourself from A to B. You've been looking for that, and you have the freedom to do that. So in other words, if we look at the anatomy of any game, we can say, well, a game consists of goals and purposes. It has barriers. And it has freedoms. So we just replace this word game, any activity. Any activity has goals, it's got barriers, it's got freedoms. Okay, let me ask you a question. If you are here, or if Joe is here, what do you think he is mostly thinking of? Is he thinking of achieving the goal and having the freedoms? Or is he thinking of these barriers are too hard for me? Easy to say, very hard to do. Yeah. So, the average person, yeah, if there's something that you want to do, now we're talking about motivation. If there's something that you want to achieve, what do you think your mind is going to tell you? Oh, it's too hard. I can't do that. I'm not in the mood today. I can't even get out of my bed. Right? I couldn't possibly talk to that person. So, what do you think your mind is coming up with? Are you going to be focusing mostly on the barriers, mostly on the goals, and mostly on the freedoms? What do you think? What do you think you have most of your attention on? Okay, Mathieu, that was a nice answer. Yeah, negative self-talk. Okay, now there's two things here that we really need to understand. Number one, of course, where is that negative self-talk coming from? So, once again, here is a barrier, like, but I have to convince my boss, or I have to convince the client, or I have to do something. Whatever it is that's there, there's something there in your mind which is similar. That thing goes on automatic replay. That is going to bring you down because your mind does not separate these two things like, oh, that is different from that. That will only happen after you become more aware of how it works and after doing some processing, which is given in the book. Now, guess what? How many people really know what their goal in life really is? How many people really know their goals? How many people really have direction? Because if you would have direction, at least if you would have direction, well, that will give you some power. But if you don't have direction, like many people do, you're going to go into, well, all kind of like cardinal wind directions. You see, so a person who is without any direction is just going to try different things, but he doesn't really find out what really gives him the gratification, what really gives him the satisfaction in life. In other words, he's goalless, he's purposeless, right? Without that, you're not even going to obtain or achieve what it is that you want to do. Now, the full remedy, I hate to say that, the full remedy is, of course, the knowledge. You need knowledge to fix things in life. Yeah. A motivational point is this, and that is a point of realization. Just look at that picture and you get to realize that whenever you overcome a barrier, you are going to get a freedom in return. It's very key to understand. Whenever you overcome a barrier, whenever you handle a barrier and you get a certain action done, you will get a freedom in return. The doing, the overcoming of that barrier, giving you that sense of relief. Why? Because you are actually saying no to the automatic replay. So fuck you, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm just going to be very stubborn and I'm going to do it anyway. And you're going to have some freedom in return. Now, when there's really a necessity, you'll find out that all of a sudden you're doing something that you didn't do before, because now it's a necessity. So you can do it. You absolutely can. But you want to make it more into a routine to say, all right, you know, I hate talking to my boss, but let me just go for it and try it, put the negative thoughts aside, and just confront it. Just face the guy, see if I can get him to say yes to what I want. And he might just say yes, and you go, yeah, and you're going to experience a freedom. In other words, it brought you closer to your goal. So people usually see bears on the road. They see obstacles on the road. If you want to get these bears, these obstacles off the road, in other words, out of your mind, honestly, you should read that book. You should read that book because it tells you where these obstacles and bears in your mind, where they come from, why they keep coming back all the freaking time, and it gives you a method to get that stuff out of your system. Now, if we look at freedoms, there's one more tip that I can give you, just a practical one to end of the evening, and that is this. You have accomplished things in life. You have accomplished goals. There have been things that you have done really well. And honestly, you should take a piece of paper and write down at least 20 accomplishments or more that you have achieved. You should just do that. And why? Because it will strengthen these, it will strengthen those positive moments in your life that actually lifted you up. Because there's other shit in there in your mind, these recordings, which pull you down. These are the failures. These are the successes. So you don't really want to read a book right away, do that for yourself. Yeah. Keep on writing, because you're going to be focusing on the achievements, focusing on the successes, and write them down for yourself. Set a target. I'm gonna write down at least 20, and dig up these good memories. What you can expect as a result is that you may cheer up a bit. You may cheer up a bit. When you do that, see if there was anything there that actually got you satisfaction, gratification. Try to find your goal. Now, as an extra tip, I would say life is based on basically doing what worked, doing what gave you satisfaction, gratification, right? Doing things that helped. If you thought that, hey, you know, reading a book, reading a motivational book, it actually helped me, well, do more of that. Just do more of that. Knowledge is always valuable. On the flip side, you can have a look at what were the things that didn't help me. Well, I'm endlessly scrolling on my phone. Does that help me? Well, it certainly keeps you busy, but you're going to be exposed to a lot of negativity as well, which will just trigger some other stuff that's there and pull you down. So have a look at the stuff that doesn't really help. The word help is key here. What helps me? Make a list of that. And decide I'm going to do more of it. What didn't help me? Make a list of that. Decide to knock it off. All right? I'm going to leave it here, guys. It's 9 o'clock. I want to thank you very much for being here tonight. Just have a last question for you. Was this helpful to some extent? I'm just going to read your comments, guys. Okay, let's see. Okay, taking small actions which overcame barriers. Yeah, so taking small actions which overcome barriers equals freedoms. Yeah, just have a look at it. It sounds very simple, and maybe you'd say, yeah, okay, hard to do, but you know, there's nothing in life that you get for free. That is just the anatomy of life itself. So in order to go through life, we have to live it. So you could say some people are terrified of death. They're just afraid of death, afraid of dying. Well, it equals being afraid of living. That's the silly part of it. If you're afraid of dying, well, you're just imagining there all the time that there's danger. So you're not going to get started. You're already afraid of living. In other words, you're alive. You have to live it. It comes with a bit of risk. So try to face some barriers and notice, hey, I get a bit of freedom in return for that. Ignoring self-talk, yeah, is get on to doing which allows us to begin reframing as positive success and being able to accept failures with accepting the outcome, positive or negative. This is overcoming obstacles and accepting outcome and allowing us to take more risk. Try more things, setting goals, directions, and risks to take to find purpose, discover freedoms, and get doing. Okay, good. Thanks so much. You're welcome. All right. And Mathieu, this was amazing. Thank you very much. Good, very helpful. Now, you know what, guys? So now we're actually in communication. 2 thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Is anybody of you here? I'm just going to make you an offer right now. It's free. Yeah, I'm doing this as a volunteer. Don't get me wrong. I'm volunteering so many days of the week just for the fun of it because I love it. There's nothing greater than making friends, helping people, help each other, right? Make this a bit a better planet. Make this a bit a better world. And you notice you just went to the a new restaurant in town, or you found the latest gadget, and you just feel that urge. I need to share it with my friends. I got that same passion here. I want to share it with my friends. So I want to make you an offer. I want to give you a link for a free personality test. If you contact me on WhatsApp, I want to give you a link for a free personality test. If you contact me on WhatsApp, and I'm going to give you the results for free. How does that sound? You're gonna have your personality on a graph, 10 different attributes of your personality, and then we can pinpoint where is your pitfall, where is your weak spot. And I'm going to give you a tool, a free tool, even like a free online course that will give you information just like that to start handling it. Pavel, would you be so friendly and put my WhatsApp number in there again? Yeah. So here's my offer, right? Send me a WhatsApp, and there it is, 894-862-918. Yeah, it's an Irish number. I'm actually Dutch. Came to Ireland about 3 years ago. But mark that number. Send me a WhatsApp. I'm going to send you a link for a free personality test. I'm going to give you the results for free. I'm going to show you where is your weak spot and how you can actually be more cause over it and be more in control over it. Start to handle that weak spot in your life. I hope you like the idea. So, having said all that, once again, great to have had you tonight. I enjoyed it. I'm happy that you got something out of it. So we may see each other again. If you're in Dublin, if you're in Ireland, definitely do WhatsApp me, because we do in-person workshops where we actually have like a hands-on practical approach, and feedback is always rave. People love it. Yeah. So let me know. And for now, once again, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and I hope to see you again. See you next time. Bye.